Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video we're taking a look at a brand new Pokemon in the world of Pokemon Go, Origin DIALGA, and its new legacy charge attack, Roar of Time, in the Master League. Origin DIALGA has the same typing as regular DIALGA, Dragon and Steel. Origin DIALGA has slightly lower attack, but significantly higher defense, and it has a higher overall stat product than the regular. Roar of Time is the exact same stats as Draco Meteor, but whereas Draco Meteor lowers your attack by 2 stages every time you use it, Roar of Time has no such drawbacks. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches, and let's check out Origin DIALGA in some Master League practice battles. Hopping into the first match, picking up a slightly positive lead, Kyogre into Xerneas. Xerneas is going to fire off the Moonblast. That does some pretty big damage. I'm looking to farm up energy and go for the Surf. Surf does not knock out here. I would need to go for the Origin Pulse, but my opponent is going to respect the potential Origin Pulse, which allows me to fire off my second Surf. This will not knock out. My opponent knows this. They're going to let this go. My opponent is going to be able to win switch, but I'm more than happy to give that up because I have a shield advantage. In comes Zacian for farm. My opponent sends in Metagross, and I quickly switch out into the Origin DIALGA. Origin DIALGA has the same moveset as the regular DIALGA, Dragon Breath, Iron Head, but of course the big difference, instead of Draco Meteor, it has Roar of Time. Roar of Time, the exact same damage and energy cost from Draco Meteor, but it doesn't debuff your attack. So watch this, I go for the Roar of Time, pick up the knockout, and I'm not debuffed. They're just not able to make it to a move with the Xerneas, and in the back there is Groudon, farming up energy here with Origin DIALGA. I'm very close to the 100 energy cap. I respect the Precipice Blades, but I do get baited, so it's my turn to bait back. I'm baiting with the Iron Head. Opponent is going to shield. Origin DIALGA makes it to the Roar of Time. The closing power of Origin DIALGA is just insane. Roar of Time not debuffing your attack means this thing is such a deadly sweeper. Tough lead in the next match, Kyogre into a regular DIALGA. The safe switch into Zacian. I just keep farming up energy. Opponent tries to go for a close combat catch onto Kyogre, but of course I'm not running close combat. They're going to be hit with back-to-back wild charges on the Kyogre. The first dealing massive damage, and the second grabbing a shield advantage. I'm still healthy enough that they're unable to waterfall down, so they're forced to throw energy as well. So I've generated a pretty big advantage, and now I can send in the Origin DIALGA, get a full farm down, and exit with energy. In the back, it's Landorus. I'm farming up, trying to go for the Iron Head just before they make it to a move, but unfortunately, battling on Hotel Wi-Fi, not always the greatest connection, so instead of one turn before the Sandsear, it ends up being a CMP tie that I do not win. They're going to no-shield the debuffed Iron Head. I send in Kyogre to reset the debuff and bait back out their DIALGA, and I'm always going to no-shield here. If they Draco, that comes with a 2-stage attack drop, so I can just farm down with my own DIALGA, have 2 moves for the Landorus, and win the game. So I no-shield. I end up no-shielding an Iron Head, which works out pretty nicely. They shield the Origin Pulse. I would have made it to a Surf, so my opponent is forced to throw energy, and this should just be a 1 game, as now I can send in the Origin DIALGA, which, as we see, even without Best Buddy, can compete in the mirror pretty nicely here. It is going to be a full farm down here. They switch at the last second. I could have gone for the Iron Head, but when you can Roar of Time, you Roar of Time. That animation is sick. We farm down the DIALGA, and we take the win. Great lead in the next match, Kyogre into Landorus. I'm going to safe switch. Sorry, my opponent safe switches into the Mewtwo, and I respond with the Origin DIALGA. It has been a long day. Oh my goodness. They go for the Shadow Ball there, and I'm going to be firing off the Iron Head. Iron Head is going to do quite a lot of damage, so my opponent is going to commit a shield. They have a massive amount of energy on the Mewtwo. I might have to double shield here if I want the farm down. I shield up, it's the Shadow Ball, but Mewtwo, it's so spammy. Makes it to another charge attack, and I am forced to go down a shield, but I'm going to be able to make it to a Roar of Time versus whatever they decide to send in here. They send in DIALGA, and DIALGA is going to have to shield, or they're losing almost all their HP. They're going to shield the Roar of Time, and again, no debuff, because this isn't Draco Meteor, so I get some very valuable Dragon Breath damage. I send in the Zacian, I'm going to be able to tank an Iron Head, and I just have to not let my opponent catch a Play Rough. This is definitely not foreshadowing, by the way. I farm up, I go for the Play Rough, and there's the catch. I should have overfarmed. Definite misplay on my part. They make a very nice catch. I send in the Kyogre. Kyogre cannot get the farm down as my opponent is going to be able to make it to the Sandsear Storm. So now I'm debuffed. I do have energy, however, and the Dialga has taken some very important chip damage. I could potentially go for a double surf, but I decided that the Origin Pulse is safer, as I can guarantee damage. They can't KO with an Iron Head, so they have to go for the Draco Meteor here, and then I can just send in my Zacian, get the quick attack down, and take the win. Picking up a solid lead in the next match, leading Kyogre into Solgaleo, and the Solgaleo is staying in this matchup. This is quite a surprise. Solgaleo, if they're staying in, that usually makes me think that they have Solar Beam, and in that case, I definitely need to be shielding. I go for the Origin Pulse, looking for the one-hit KO, but my opponent respects it. I shield, and it's the Psychic Fangs bait. Oh my goodness. This is really not ideal. They've farmed up a lot more energy. I have a call to make. I decide to shield. Guess what? It's another Psychic Fangs. They're firing off yet a third Psychic Fangs now. But I'm guessing this energy will be good in the back, so I'm going to save the energy and make a catch onto the Zacian. As this way, I save all the energy for later, and now we see why they couldn't switch out. They have a Ho-Oh in the back. I make it to the Wild Charge, and I'm going to make it to Wild Charge number 2 unless they fire off some energy here. So I'm farming up. My opponent is going to be firing off a charge attack. My guess is they'll go for the Brave Bird just to try and limit the farm. I decide to send in the Dialga here, because Dialga, I will get more overall energy than just one Waterfall picking up a knockout, and I will get a farm down with the Dialga. We'll have to see what that final Pokemon is. It's going to be Landorus. So Landorus, Sandsear Storm's going to do a lot of damage here, but the good news is this is the slightly bulkier version of the Dialga. I'm going to be able to make it to a Roar of Time, and even at -1, this is just going to knock out. This is just an absurd move. And then, once I grab the shield, I can combo play in with a Surf from the Kyogre. Surf onto the Landorus is going to pick up the knockout, and all that's left in the back is the 1 HP Solgaleo, and we take the game. Moving into the next match, leading Kyogre into Reshiram. I'm just going to look to farm up energy. Oh, opponent tries to go for a CMP tie with the Crunch, and that just gives me a pretty nice extra Waterfall, but they do get the debuff, so I'm going to look to switch out of here eventually. I fire off the Surf, that connects. I send in the Zacian. Opponent is going to send in Solgaleo. Solgaleo is a bit underpowered, which is quite nice if you're the Zacian, as if they are underpowered, then they won't actually be able to tank 2 close combats, or in my case, 2 wild charges. Either way, 1 move electric, 1 move fighting, both hit for neutral, so, and they both do the same amount of damage, so realistically, either way, we're able to force the shield, and my opponent is forced to fire off some energy. The Solgaleo is going to go for the Psychic Fangs. I'm heavily debuffed, so it will pick up the knockout. I send in Kyogre. Kyogre is going to win charge attack priority. That is incredibly nice. Surf is going to pick up the KO. In the back, it's Zekrom. And Origin Dialga is just going to do Dialga things at this point. Dialga dominates against the lesser dragons for a reason. Being a Dragon Steel, only taking neutral, and we see that dominance here, just crushing the Zekrom. Dialga doing Dialga things as it takes the win. Hopping to the next match, leading Kyogre into Zacian. This lead is a lot trickier than going up against the Xerneas, as of course Zacian almost always running Wild Charge. I'm shielding up as they do go for the Wild Charge. Zacian is staying in this matchup debuffed, and I'm going to be firing off the Surf. I'm thinking I'm just going to play out the 1 shield here. I do live a Wild Charge. It's not super well, but I can survive it and win the 1s, so I am going to let this go. Opponent went for the close combat. My best guess is they were thinking that I'd try and make a catch onto Dialga, so they go for the close combat, but I end up staying in and no shielding, and in comes Mewtwo. I go for the bait here with the Surf, and I immediately regret it as they no shield. That would have been a perfect time to full send the Origin Pulse and guarantee either massive damage or the final shield, but instead I went for the safer route, and that's not really a winning play here. The good news is Zacian makes the Wild Charge just before they make the second Psy Strike. That will pick up the knockout, and in the back they have Ursaluna. Without close combat, I need to make it to a Play Rough, and I just barely can. I'm just able to make it to the Play Rough, and the Play Rough gets shielded up by the Ursaluna. And now I should just be in a pretty winning position where I can just send in the Origin Dialga. Unfortunately, Ursaluna is stuck with Tackle as the fast attack, which is going to be resisted. Even if they land a high horsepower here, it's not going to be enough to KO. The high horsepower does a lot of damage though, but Tackle, not going to be enough to farm down. So I can successfully no shield the nuke shield the bait, and still win the match. As I'm able to make it to the Roar of Time, that's going to be a goodbye Ursaluna, and that's game over. We've got a mirror lead in the next match, Kyogre versus Kyogre. I don't mind staying in this lead matchup. I am definitely expecting my opponent probably has a DIALGA in the back, as that's typically Kyogre's most common core pairing. And that's one of the reasons why I had a lot of fun running Virizion the other day, because one thing that Kyogre DIALGA core is really not a big fan of is the Virizion. We both call each other's baits. Opponent tries to make a catch onto their DIALGA. They're unable to do so, and I send in mine. Now, my opponent does not have their best buddy boost equipped. They end up firing off the Iron Head. That's very okay with me. I'm going to let this go and go for the Roar of Time. This way, I can win the Zero Shield if they let it go, and they do. That's going to be goodbye DIALGA. In comes Kyogre. Kyogre farming up energy. And here, you're going to see a pretty big miscount on my part. I thought that I could farm down here, but I cannot. I'm forced to double shield. Realistically, I probably shouldn't have shielded DIALGA at all. In the back, it's going to be Xerneas. I should still be in a winning position here, but a miscount on my part. I'm just going to chalk it up to being tired after a long day of running around Pasadena, catching a lot of Mons, and doing entirely too many Palkia and DIALGA raids. But either way, we should still be able to make this into a win. Moonblast will pick up the knockout. They can't afford to go for the close combat and debuff their defense while they're stuck in here. They're firing off another Moonblast. I could potentially try and go for double Wild Charge, but I think the Play Rough play is probably safer. So I am going to go for the Play Rough. Play Rough does not knock out. It's not as good of a move as Moonblast. The Play Rough is going to connect. My opponent is able to make it to a charge attack, and it is going to be the close combat. I'm going to cue the switch, anticipating the snipe, and we're going to get the farm down of the Xerneas as well and take the win. Absolute nightmare lead, leading the Kyogre into the Dragonite. I'm going to save switch into the Zacian, and Zacian is going to be met with Ursaluna. Of course, no close combat. I'm going to go for the Play Rough. My opponent is going to no-shield that, and I'm going to be no-shielding as well. My opponent is going to bait with the Ice Punch, and I think I should be able to hang on and make it to the Play Rough here, as long as this isn't a high horsepower. I'll be honest, I'm not super knowledgeable about the Ursaluna counts, because I don't typically see it a lot in the Open Master League, but I am able to make it to a second Play Rough, and that's pretty nice, as I am actually able to grab a shield from my opponent. I send in Kyogre. Kyogre is only going to be hit with an Ice Punch, and now in comes DIALGA, and in the back, it's going to be met with Landorus. Landorus, not what I was hoping to see. Whether it's the Origin DIALGA or the regular DIALGA, both of them, really not a fan of the Landorus. And again, I tried and throw one turn before, and Hotel Wi-Fi says no. The Sandsear Storm, I am able to survive that, but at this point, they can just no-shield, because they've gotten the DIALGA low enough that they should just be able to win this game with the Dragonite. I'm able to make it to a debuffed Iron Head. My opponent is going to commit the shield, as they may have lost count and thought it was Roar of Time, or they could potentially just say, you know what, that is the only neutral damage left. This is going to get close though. I'm going to no-shield. I call that it's the Dragon Claw. If I can make it to double Surf, I might have a win con. This has been a really tough game in terms of alignment. I need double Surf to KO. Surf number 1 connects, and it's not going to be enough. They're going to survive on like 1 HP, but I have a 3-turn fast move, and they have a 1-turn fast move, and they pick up the knockout. And that right there is the perfect demonstration why lower turn duration fast moves are almost always going to be better. Great lead in the final match, leading Kyogre into Mamoswine. Opponent save switches into a regular DIALGA, so I'm going to send in the Origin DIALGA, and I get the shield call right as they go for the Draco Meteor. I'm farming up to 100 energy and firing off the Iron Head. I go for an undercharge. My opponent ends up committing the shield, so they want to make it to a second Draco. However, they're going to have to double shield if they want to get there, and that's exactly what they're going to do. So my opponent is going to be able to force both shields, but since their nuke move debuffs, whereas mine does not, I'm going to be able to win the 2s here and exit with energy. In comes the Mamo. I'm able to make it to the Roar of Time on charge attack priority. That's going to be goodbye to the Mamoswine in the back. It's a Giratina, and this game is over. I'm able to make it to a Play Rough, even though it doesn't knock out. That's still enough damage that I can just win. My opponent as these are members of my Discord, decides to go for a little bit of a cheeky bad manners play. Just understanding that the game is in fact over, going for the Dragon Pulse there. So definitely a pretty entertaining play all around. Giratina is going to go for the Shadow Ball. I wasn't quite sure. My guess is that was just undercharge, just understanding that the game is over at this point. But we're able to survive on 1 HP, make the Wild Charge, and take the win. All in all, Origin DIALGA is extremely strong. I would say it is a side grade to the regular DIALGA. There are things that I like better about the Origin and things that I like better about the regular. To start with, on the Origin, the fact that the nuke move does not debuff your attack by 2 stages is incredibly nice. It makes the Origin an incredibly deadly sweeper, as you're able to get insane damage per energy with no drawback. It is also slightly bulkier, which can be advantageous. However, the regular DIALGA, having that higher attack, can be very beneficial, especially when it comes to charge attack priority. For example, the regular DIALGA wins CMP over Kyogre and Groudon, whereas the Origin does not unless you best buddy it to level 51. So I do think there are benefits and drawbacks to both. Realistically, if you have one build, you're probably going to be good, as the performance is fairly comparable either way. But if you don't have a DIALGA build yet, then this is a really strong Pokemon to build, because DIALGA, whether it's regular or Origin, is just unbelievable in the Master League. It's been strong for years, and it's going to continue to be an absolute titan of the Master League for a long time to come. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is sincerely appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.